Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today I've borrowed the 2022 version of the Chevrolet Trailblazer from my friends at Red River Chevrolet. This is the active trim level that we're going to be taking a look at today. And there's really not a whole lot I can say about the history of the Trailblazer because it's only in its second generation. As far as for 2022, here is what's new. Satellite radio is now standard across all trim levels. There is an available trailering package, and the base L trim is no longer part of the available trim levels. And no matter what trim level of the Trailblazer you may choose, if you want front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, those are your options. So let's talk about overall styling and exterior functionality with this second generation of the Traverse. Obviously a little bit smaller than what it was with the first generation, but still a nice sporty look. Really overall a great looking vehicle with the upper and lower grills. Just, I don't know, that size difference between the two seems to fit. Of course, that Chevrolet badge right there underneath the hood. And I just like the slope. The overall lines of the hood just give it kind of a sporty look. A smaller model like this should have a sporty look, at least in my personal opinion, because it's not meant to be big and burly like maybe a Suburban or a Tahoe. And looking at the front end here, of course, you can see the design and the layout of the headlights, where the blinkers are. You've got the LED daytime running lights. You also have the fog lights down on the bottom portion of the bumper down there. Remember, this is the active version, so what that means is you are expected to take this to places that you might not take other trim levels of the Trailblazer. And like I said, a benefit here. Available with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So if you live in one of those snowy climates up north in the mountains, you're going to be able to get around during the winter when it gets snowed in and a lot of snow on the ground, ice and stuff like that. That all-wheel drive system is definitely going to help you to avoid getting stuck. And one thing that I get asked on a regular basis, are there turn signal indicators built into the side view mirrors? Not in this case, just in case you wanted to know, because if I don't mention that, somebody always asks. But as you look at the overall design here of the mirror caps and the top of the roof here on this Trailblazer, you're going to notice another difference between this trim level and others, and that's that white color that you have that really separates everything from the main exterior color. I don't know, it just gives it a more sporty look. That's just the way I see it. And of course, here on the driver and passenger front doors, you're gonna see that button right there. If you don't know what that is, that's called passive entry. It means when you have the remote on your person, you can walk up and push that button to lock and or unlock the interior. And speaking of the remote, what do you have? Well, it's pretty basic, but I do like the fact that you have remote start. Multiple benefits there as far as warming the vehicle up during the winter, cooling it down during the summer like we have right now. So multiple benefits in that respect. And one thing that people are likely to say, that this 1.3 liter turbocharged engine is underpowered. Well, what exactly are those numbers? 155 horsepower, 174 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to a CVT. Now, a lot of people are going to say, I don't like the continuously variable transmissions. Go to your local Chevrolet dealership, check one of these Trailblazers out, drive it down the road. I've driven a lot of different vehicles with that CVT, and honestly, this is the most well-behaved CVT I've ever had the experience of using in a vehicle. What do I mean by that? It's not annoying. Maybe that's the best way to put it. I apologize to other car makers whose cars I review. I'm not saying yours are or are not annoying, but this one definitely behaves better. Maybe other people can learn from that, I don't know. Now, depending on your situation, yeah, I understand people might say, well, that's not enough horsepower for my situation. For some people, it will be plenty. It gets down the road, no problem, gets up to speed. And I've talked about this before. When you have a turbocharged motor like this, the best thing you can do when it comes to acceleration, don't just drop the pedal to the floor. You'll get turbo lag that way. If you just ease into the pedal, kind of see how my hand is kind of easing down like that. That's about what you want to do. Try it out sometime. You're going to see that the reaction of the vehicle is more responsive. In fact, it tends to kind of follow your foot, so to speak. And one of the biggest benefits to this particular engine combination is going to definitely be gas mileage. You might say, well, Tom, what are those numbers? Impress me with those numbers. Well, whether you're impressed or not, I can't control that, but here are the numbers from Chevrolet. 29 miles per gallon estimated city, 33 out on the highway. You combine those two together, Chevrolet says that will be 31 miles per gallon. And besides the LED taillights and the trapezoidal exhaust, again, I don't know if I should even try saying that 5 times fast on camera. We won't do that today. But here's what you have back here as far as cargo space. And like I said, there's an available towing package. I will also get those numbers for you to put on the screen. You can lay the seats flat here to maximize your cargo space. Under the floor, good news for those of you, and I've yet to find anybody who likes having a tire repair kit in their vehicle as opposed to a spare tire. No problems with that here. Spare tire located underneath the floor. And one of the maybe unique aspects here, something you don't see in every single vehicle. It's not something new to the market, but you do have a multi-tier floor here, so to speak. So what that basically means is you've got 3 different places where you can set the floor, the height ultimately. And so, you know, for somebody that may be very important. You might have a plant that you bought that's already in a pot, and maybe when it's up in its highest position here, the floor that being in its highest position, I should say, you can drop that down a couple of notches, and maybe that'll let you get that plant in here. I don't know, just something to think about. But if you've done that and you've used it and you've needed it, well, you know the benefits there. And as far as in the back seat goes, for the size of SUV that this is, there is a reasonable amount of space back there. You've got a 120 volt power outlet, so kind of a multitasker there. There's a lot of different options of different things you could do there. Of course, your USB ports. But one thing that I really like here, the advantage to the CVT, there's no transmission tunnel. So that means if you have 3 people sitting here in the back seat, that middle seat passenger is not going to be uncomfortable with their legs sitting up on top of that transmission tunnel. Honestly, if you've had that experience, you probably can appreciate that maybe more than those who have not. And while this is not a power rear lift gate, I'm just going to show you real quick here on the screen. It's dampened, it's very easy to use, very easy to open. Just one of those things to where, honestly, that feature not being there, the power door, that will save a little bit of money on this model. Now, one of the main questions I know somebody's probably going to ask, and if you didn't see me show it on the screen earlier, see what I was showing. Anytime you see the dealership's screenshot, the price is always there. In fact, I try and highlight that so you can see that. But in case you didn't notice, what exactly is the price on this 2022 Trailblazer Active? $29,420 is what you can expect to pay, at least at Red River Chevrolet. I can't speak for all dealerships, but according to my research on the internet, that is the price that Chevrolet recommends, and that's the price that Red River Chevrolet is asking. And just taking a look around the interior here, you're going to notice some nice gold trim on the door panels, around the air conditioning vents, and there's other areas where you'll find that as well. Good comfortable seating. You've got steering wheel mounted controls, of course, as you would expect, voice commands, all that good stuff. You can control the radio functionality, the volume, the station, all that stuff on the back of the steering wheel. And over on the right-hand side, or excuse me, the left-hand side. Well, on the right-hand side, let's start there first. Behind the steering wheel is the control for the windshield wipers. A lot of different functionality there, pretty easy to use. But the one area of most vehicles that tends to have cobwebs, especially here in Shreveport, Bossier, Northwest Louisiana, is that lever on the left-hand side. It's called the turn signal lever. You push it into the up position when you're turning right or changing lanes to the right. And when you're doing so to the left, you push it into the down position. In case you've always wondered what that was for, now you know. Give it a try. I promise that it does not take any extra talent, strength, or ability to use that feature. Give you a quick look outside of the humor of today's video at the instrument cluster. Of course, if you want to use that digital speedometer, you've got that there, or the older fashioned sort, I guess we could say, of the analog speedometer and tachometer there. Comfortable leather wrapped steering wheel. And just looking through everything here, of course, you're going to have that backup camera. That's going to come on every vehicle you buy now. You will not buy a new vehicle from this point forward that doesn't have a backup camera, at least not in the United States of America. Infotainment system here, Chevrolet has a super easy system to use, but yet it has a lot of great features and functionality, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And the good news about that is that on this model, on these that I've reviewed recently, at least the RS and now the Active, as far as the Trailblazer goes, you don't need a USB cable to use your phone and pair it with this system. So that's a really big benefit in my opinion. Cuts down on trouble, cuts down on time, and it's not hard to pair whatsoever. Very easy system just through Bluetooth. I probably don't even have to tell you about that. But remember guys, if you've never had this kind of technology before, and for those who might say, oh, come on, surely there's nobody left around who hasn't. Oh, there's plenty of people. You might even see them leaving some comments in this video. This stuff is nothing to be afraid of. It's very easy to learn, very easy to use. Once you start using it, you're likely going to say, wow, how did we ever make it without that? But we did. But it's just nice that technology just continues to improve and give us things like this that we don't necessarily have to have, but we get to, and it's beneficial. You don't have dual zone climate control, but in an interior of this size, I don't think that's necessary. So your single zone climate control here, everything that you need. Got more connectivity here with USB, a 12-volt power outlet, and wireless charging underneath that for your cell phone. All right, a quick test drive with this Trailblazer Active version. And the first thing I've got to say, I did recently do an RS. So the difference that I'm noticing so far between the two is that the steering seems to be a little bit more tight here on the Active trim level than what it was on that RS that I did. I don't know if it's just me or if it really is that big of a difference. It's not a big difference necessarily, but I'm definitely noticing that it just seems a little bit more tight. And I guess that would make sense because this is meant for doing some things that you might not do with a rally sport. So overall, that's just my driving background is a little bit different than most people, so I'm going to notice little things like that. But I just like the responsiveness of the steering wheel and how it just feels better. Now, one thing I also like to point out here, there was a time when if you drove something that was front wheel drive, you just knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was front wheel drive because it just handled differently and almost felt like it would get out from underneath you potentially. I don't know, that's probably the best way to put it, but it feels a lot more stable in modern day vehicles to drive a front wheel drive vehicle than it did in the past. Just one of those things that I pick up on in these test drives. But overall, I must say that I'm very impressed with the Trailblazer. It's a shorter wheelbase vehicle. A shorter wheelbase vehicle often has a more rigid ride, and you will not find that to really be the case here. You're definitely going to get some road noise, but the ride quality itself is actually quite impressive to me compared to some of the other vehicles that I have driven in the past that would compete with this Trailblazer, such as the Ford EcoSport. And now the EcoSport doesn't ride terribly bad, but I'll tell you what, there is definitely a noticeable difference here. And as I like to say, I don't need to go find a test track to test the suspension and the shocks out on a vehicle. I've got one anywhere I drive in Shreveport because the roads are so terrible around here. But just overall, usability, very easy. I've talked about this many times before. The technology here is not hard to learn if you've never had it in a vehicle before. Very user-friendly, easy to learn. In fact, you can use what I call the hunt and peck method, where you just kind of hunt and peck your way around and figure out how things work. It's just not that hard. But a very easy vehicle to drive. It's actually, it really feels like you would expect it to, in my personal opinion. It has that sporty feel to it. I know it's not a high horsepower vehicle, but if you're looking for something to get around easily, maybe there's a lot of traffic where you live. Here where I live in Northwest Louisiana, the traffic isn't really that bad compared to other cities that are much larger. But if you have yourself a situation where maybe there's tight parking and different things like that, well, this is such a maneuverable vehicle, very easy to drive. And honestly, it's just kind of fun to drive, even though, like I say, not a lot of horsepower, but for some people, that's a good thing. They like that. It saves on gas. It's just, not everybody's worried about a huge amount of horsepower. And even though in this day and age, I realize that 155 horsepower may not be an overload of power, but it's enough to get the job done. And just real quick, one thing as I'm getting up to speed here on the road that we're merging onto, here's the thing. with a smaller turbocharged engine like this, easing into the pedal is going to give you better acceleration than what you will get if you just drop the hammer to the floor. And in case Sam the cooking guy ends up watching this video, I hope you can't hear the gardeners as they're working to do yard work around here. Anyway, guys, I gotta say special thanks to Red River Chevrolet for loaning me this model for the day, and all of you for taking the time to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out another of the videos that is on the screen right now, and I will see you there.